Families of the victims of this convicted killer sit and wait to hear if he will be sentenced to death. We showed you live as a jury recommended the death penalty for Wade Wilson yesterday. Now, Wilson was convicted for the brutal strangling of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz in Cape Coral 5 years ago. Now we're waiting to hear if a judge will take that recommendation from the jury and sentence Wilson to death. Now, Wink News anchor Liz Byro joins us live. And Liz, you spoke with Wilson's attorney. What did he tell you about Wilson's reaction after the recommendation?
Yeah, he believes that Wade Wilson anticipated that result. He anticipated that this jury would recommend death because of the graphic nature of the offenses and because of the evidence they heard during the guilt phase of this trial. Now, while Wade Wilson may not have been shocked, when that decision was read, we saw a reaction from Wilson that we had never seen before. As Wade Wilson sat in anticipation of his jury's decision, life or death, the gulp started. Wilson physically getting choked up and couldn't stop throughout the reading.
We, the jury, find by a vote of 9-3 that Wade Wilson should be sentenced to death. We, the jury, find by a vote of 10-2 that Wade Wilson should be sentenced to death.
Wilson took it all in, looked over at his attorneys. One of them, Kevin Shirley, who I sat down with Wednesday. Was this a gulp of shock? Was this a gulp of everything setting in?
I don't know. Mr. Wilson's kind of a complex individual. I don't know that that was had anything to do with shock. Who might have been a final realization that this whole thing is almost resolved.
5 years after Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz were murdered, a jury of Wade Wilson's peers recommended the judge sentence him to death. It took that jury less than 2 hours, including lunch.
I thought it would take them longer. As much as we're disappointed in their recommendation, at least they did their job. They came back and did not find that the state had proven all of their aggravators against both.
And the jurors voted different for the two different victims. Former Florida law said their vote had to be unanimous. Now, all you need is a majority of 8-4.
3 of them thought there was sufficient mitigating circumstances to not recommend death on the first homicide and 2 on the second. So if the Florida law hadn't changed, we may not be having this conversation today.
And the jury can recommend a death sentence, but his true fate is decided by the Honorable Judge Nick Thompson. Now, what's the likelihood that this judge sticks with the jury's recommendation? We'll stick with Wink News, and I'll tell you that at 5:30. I'm live outside the Lee County Courthouse. Liz Byro, Wink News.
All right, Liz, thanks.